Ever wonder what it feels like when your hard-won independence suddenly feels threatened? Picture this. The scent of fresh paint from your new home mixes with the sharp sting of betrayal as you discover your front door lock has been changed overnight. The familiar noise of the city outside, the honking cars, distant sirens, now feels deafening as doubt creeps in. Can a girl really chase her dream without losing herself? When your biggest achievement morphs into your biggest crisis, what would you do to protect it? That's where my story begins, and trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. I'm Pam, 32, and finally living the dream. After years of saving every penny from my software engineering gig in Chicago, I bought my first home last month. Let's be real, the feeling of finally having my own space after years in overpriced rentals? Unmatched. But here's the kicker. I decided to keep my purchase a secret from my parents, because, let's face it, they love to meddle. Then came the shocker. One fateful evening, I came home from work, eager to unwind, only to find my front door lock had been changed. Panic hit me like a freight train. Who could do this? The excitement of my new life crumbled into confusion and anger. Friends, you won't believe what happens next. For 5 long years, I've hustled in the tech industry, squeezing every dime out of my paycheck. While my coworkers were off sunbathing in tropical paradises, I was living in a tiny studio, sharing a bathroom with 3 other units, a real-life lesson in sacrifice. All the late nights, the skipped brunches, the DIY weekends, worth it. I had my sights set on becoming financially independent through home ownership, but my family dynamics were always complicated. I love my family, don't get me wrong, but ever since I can remember, there's been this cloud over my relationship with them. My parents, Richard and Nancy. They've always favored my older sister, Olivia, the golden child. She married Frank, popped out 3 kids, and slid right into that picture-perfect family dream that my parents adore. Meanwhile, I focused on my career, charting a path they never quite endorsed. And let's not even talk about Olivia and Frank's reckless spending. It's like they live in an alternate universe where money grows on trees. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Stay tuned, because everything is about to change, and I'm ready to fight for my place in this family. What would you do if everything you've worked for was suddenly at risk? Trust me, this story is just getting started. Their houses too big, their cars too expensive, and their vacations too lavish. Frank works in sales with an unpredictable income, while Olivia has been a stay-at-home mom since their first child was born. Despite their financial instability, my parents have always been there to bail them out, something they never did for me when I struggled during college or when I was laid off early in my career. The pattern of parental interference in my life is long and frustrating. When I received a scholarship to MIT for computer science, my parents insisted I attend the local state university instead to stay close to home. When I dated Jacob, a wonderful man who happened to be divorced with a child, my parents made their disapproval so clear that it eventually contributed to our breakup. When I was offered a job in Seattle at a prestigious tech firm, they guilted me into turning it down to stay in Chicago, claiming my aging grandmother needed me nearby, only to rarely visit her myself. So when I finally saved enough for a down payment and started house hunting, I made a conscious decision to keep it to myself. No input, no criticism, no attempts to steer me toward a house near them or away from neighborhoods they deemed unsafe or unsuitable. This was going to be my decision, and mine alone. The house hunting process was exhausting but exhilarating. I spent 3 months viewing properties every weekend, researching neighborhoods and calculating mortgage rates. Then, one Saturday, my realtor, Julia, showed me a charming 2-story classic home in an older established neighborhood. The moment I walked through the front door, I felt something I had never experienced before in any other property, a sense of belonging. The house was built in the 1920s with hardwood floors throughout large windows that let in beautiful natural light and a small reading nook under the stairs that seemed designed just for me. The moment I stepped into my new home, everything changed. I had worked so hard, battling family expectations and always feeling like I had to follow their script. But now, with keys in hand and a heart racing from excitement, I was finally free. Or so I thought. Imagine this. It's a beautiful Saturday in April. The scent of rain lingers in the air. As I stand in my living room, boxes stacked high around me, the reality of my independence washes over me. Smooth and refreshing, mixed with that sweet smell of fresh paint. I'd closed the door on the past, the control, the criticisms, the suffocating family ties. The kitchen, with its vintage farmhouse sink, felt like an embrace. The hardwood floors whispered stories from the 1920s, echoing a sense of belonging. Everything, this home, my dreams, was finally mine. But then, a flicker of doubt. Just as the porch light outside buzzed ominously, a sudden flashback hit me. My family's smiling faces, sneaky and supportive, crowded around a table. Papers were signed, commitments made, all for a house they thought I'd love. It wasn't just my success, it had always been about meeting their expectations, their dreams for me. Was I really breaking free, or simply trading one form of control for another? As I held those keys, that thought sank deep, heavy like the rain-soaked ground outside. The joyous moment felt tainted, overshadowed by the realization that my independence had tangled roots in familial expectations. This wasn't just my story anymore. I stood there, surrounded by the potential of my new life. The faint rustle of leaves brushed against the house, filling the silence. What am I really fighting for? I whispered to myself. With every choice, every sacrifice, had I lost sight of who I truly was? In that mix of joy and doubt, I knew I had something priceless, the chance to define my future. Yet, as I carried my boxes into my new reality, I felt the weight of my family's dreams lingering in the shadows. Would I truly carve out my own path? Or would I find myself chained to the very expectations I sought to escape? That first night was pure magic. I ordered a pizza, opened some wine, and camped out on the living room floor. The house whispered and creaked around me, a welcome song that said, "This is all yours." I slept like a rock on my mattress, truly free for the first time. The next few weeks were a blur of paint chips and power tools. I transformed the space, sage green walls, a deep, comfy sectional for the living room. I hunted for treasures, filling my home with stories, a dining table from a couple married 50 years, a vintage desk from a retired professor. Each piece felt like it was meant to be here. Then I met Eleanor, my neighbor, a retired librarian, sharp as a tack. She brought over a blueberry pie and a ton of local gossip. She knew everyone, the friendly neighbors, the reclusive ones, even the mail carrier's moods. She said my house had good bones, good energy. She said she could tell I'd be happy here, but as she was leaving, she paused. Just an offhand comment. "This place reminds me of the old Peterson house on Maple. Same builder, maybe?" She didn't see my smile falter. She didn't know that name. Peterson. That was my grandmother's maiden name, a name my family never, ever discussed. The coincidence was huge. Was this why my parents were so insistent? So supportive? Did they steer me here? My independence? Was it just another part of their plan all along? The walls I painted, the floors I polished, did they already belong to my family's hidden history? As Pam gazed out the window of her new home, the streetlights cast long shadows, and a sudden shadow moved behind the trees. Someone was watching her. The house felt suddenly heavy, the silence thick with unanswered questions. Had she finally escaped control, or had she just stepped into a new trap? Her heart pounded as the wind carried distant whispers. Was it her imagination, or was her past catching up? What choice would she make when the truth finally surfaced? I shrugged, not knowing anything about the history of the house beyond what was in the disclosure documents. I made a mental note to research it sometime, then promptly forgot as I became busy with work and settling in. By the third weekend, I felt ready to invite my closest friends over for a housewarming gathering. Maya, my best friend since college, arrived first with a potted plant and a bottle of champagne. Zoe and her husband Tyler brought a gift basket of kitchen essentials. Ethan, my friend, from work contributed a smart home system that he insisted on setting up immediately. The evening was filled with laughter tours of each room and endless discussions about paint colors and furniture placement. As we sat around my new dining table enjoying takeout and wine, Maya asked the question I had been dreading. "So, when are your parents coming to see the place? I bet they will be so proud of you." The table went quiet as everyone looked at me expectantly. I took a long sip of wine before answering. "They do not know yet." Zoe nearly choked on her drink. "What do you mean they do not know? Pam, you bought a house. That is huge news." I explained my reasoning, detailing the history of interference and criticism that had led me to make this decision privately. My friends listened, some nodding and understanding, others looking skeptical. "I get it," Tyler said. "My parents are the same way. They would have had opinions about everything from the neighborhood to the age of the roof." "But keeping it secret indefinitely seems extreme," Ethan countered. "They are going to find out eventually, and will not it be worse the longer you wait?" Maya, who had met my parents multiple times and witnessed their dynamic firsthand, pulled me aside later in the kitchen. "I understand why you did this," she said quietly. "But secrets have a way of creating bigger problems than the ones they are trying to avoid. The longer you wait, the more hurt they will be that you kept this from them." "I know," I admitted. "I just want to enjoy this achievement on my own terms for a little while. I will tell them when the time is right." "Just do not wait too long," she warned. "The right time has a way of never arriving." After my friends left, I sat alone on my porch swing, contemplating Maya's advice. Part of me knew she was right, but another part still relished the freedom of having this space that was wholly mine, unshaped by family opinions. I decided to give myself one more month to settle in before breaking the news. The following weeks were some of the happiest of my adult life. I established routines in my new home coffee in the backyard in the mornings, working from my home community center 2 days a week, exploring the neighborhood on evening walks. I joined the local community garden and signed up for a furniture restoration class at the community center. For the first time in my life, I felt completely in control of my environment and my choices. But there were moments that gave me pause. Twice I noticed an unfamiliar car parked across the street, gone before I could get a good look at the chauffeur. Once I had the distinct feeling of being watched as I unloaded groceries from my car. I dismissed these as the normal paranoia of a woman living alone for the first time, but installed motion sensor lights around the property just in case. Looking back, I should have recognized these as the first warning signs that my carefully constructed independence was about to be challenged in ways I never imagined. About a month after I moved in, I was pruning the rose bushes in my front yard when Eleanor came over with a thermos of iced tea. We sat on the porch steps watching the neighborhood children ride bikes up and down the sidewalk. "I was looking through some old photo albums yesterday," Eleanor said, pouring tea into paper cups. "And I found something interesting. A picture from the 1970s of the whole neighborhood at a block party. Your house is in the background." She handed me a faded color photograph. I could indeed see my house looking much the same as it did now, though, with different colored shutters. "The Millers owned it then," she continued. "Lovely couple. Before them, it was the Johnsons, and before that, I believe it was owned by a family named Anderson. Relatives of yours, perhaps?" I looked up sharply. "Why would you think they were my relatives?" Eleanor seemed surprised by my reaction. "Oh, I just assumed you might have known about the connection. Your real estate agent mentioned something about the house staying in the family when she came by to leave some paperwork after you moved in. I thought that was why you chose this house." My heart began to race. What exactly did she say? Something about how nice it was that the house had come full circle back to the original family. I did not think much of it at the time. Eleanor studied my face. You did not know, did you? I shook my head slowly, my mind racing. Could it be a coincidence? Anderson was a common enough surname. But something about this revelation unsettled me deeply. After Eleanor left, I called my mother under the pretense of catching up. Our conversations were typically strained affairs where she talked about Olivia's children and local gossip, while I shared carefully edited versions of my work life. This time, I cautiously steered the conversation toward family history. Mom, I was thinking about Grandma Rose recently. Did she and Grandpa ever live in the city, or were they always out in the suburbs? There was a brief pause before my mother answered. They had a place in the city when they first married somewhere on the north side. Why do you ask? Just curious. I was walking through an old neighborhood recently and wondered if they might have lived there. Which neighborhood? Her voice had an edge to it now. Westridge Gardens, I said, naming my new neighborhood. The silence that followed lasted so long, I thought we had lost the connection. Mom, are you there? Yes. Her voice was tight. Pam, is there something you need to tell us? Your father and I were just talking about how we have not seen your apartment in over a year. Nothing specific, I said quickly, just reminiscing. Well, speaking of housing, she continued, her tone brightening artificially. Olivia and Frank are looking for a new place. Frank lost his job last month and they need to downsize. Your father and I are helping them look. We might have found something perfect, actually. A charming older home with enough bedrooms for the kids. My stomach tightened. That is nice of you to help them. Family helps family, Pam. The implication that I somehow failed in this regard hung in the air between us. Anyway, when are you coming for dinner? It has been weeks since we have seen you. I made a vague excuse about work being busy and ended the call as quickly as possible. Minutes later, my phone pinged with a text from Olivia. Mom says you were asking about Grandma's old house. Weird coincidence. We are actually looking at houses in that area. Where are you living these days? Still in that tiny studio. I did not respond. My mind now fully occupied with the possible connection between my new home and my family history. That evening, I dug through the closing documents from my house purchase, looking for any clue. The chain of title showed 6 previous owners going back to the 1950s, none with my family name. But what about before that? I remembered a distant great-aunt on my mother's side, Jane, who was the family historian. We had never been close, but she had always sent birthday cards and graduation gifts. She lived in Florida now, having retired there years ago. I found her number and called explaining that I was working on a personal project about family history. Aunt Jane, did Grandma and Grandpa Anderson ever own a house in Westridge Gardens on Sycamore Street? Specifically. There was a long pause before Jane answered, How did you find out about that house, Pam? My heart sank. So it is true they did own it. Yes, they did. It was their first home after they married in 1948. They lived there until 1965 when they moved to the suburbs for better schools when your mother was about 10 years old. And what happened to the house then? They kept it as a rental property for many years. When your grandfather died in 1988, he left it to your mother and her brother, your Uncle David, with the understanding that it would stay in the family for future generations. But about 15 years ago, when the housing market was booming, they decided to sell it. Your uncle needed money for his business, and your parents wanted to help Olivia buy her first house. The pieces were falling into place, creating a picture I did not want to see. So, they sold a family heirloom to help Olivia. I could not keep the bitterness from my voice. It was a difficult decision, Jane said diplomatically. Your grandfather would have been disappointed. He always talked about keeping that house in the family for generations. But times change and people make choices based on immediate needs. After thanking Jane for the information, I sat in my living room looking around with new eyes. This house had been in my family meant to stay in the family, but had been sold to help my sister. And now, by sheer coincidence, I had bought it back without even knowing its significance. The irony was almost too perfect. I had purchased my first home in secret to avoid family interference, only to discover I had unknowingly reclaimed a piece of family history that had been sacrificed for my sister's benefit. As this realization sank in, I began to understand that my private victory was about to become the centerpiece of a family drama I had never anticipated. 3 days after my conversation with Aunt Jane, I returned home from work later than usual, having stayed for a team dinner. It was nearly Naima when I unlocked my front door and stepped inside. Immediately, I sensed something was off. I stepped inside my new home, the air thick with a strange mix of excitement and unease. Everything looked fine at first glance. But wait, something felt off. There was a dining chair shifted out of place, a throw pillow rearranged just so, and an unrecognizable coffee mug chilling in the sink. That's when the realization hit me. Someone had been here. My heart raced. Should I call the police? But then I remembered the security system Ethan set up, those white cameras peeking down from the corners like watchful eyes. I clicked open the app, my fingers trembling as I replayed the footage from earlier that day. My blood turned cold as I saw it. At 2:15 p.m., a familiar car rolled into my driveway. My parents stepped out, followed by Olivia. They moved to the front door, and my mom fumbled with a key. Tried again. Frustration painted their faces as they huddled, whispering conspiratorial words before shuffling back to their car. But it didn't stop there. The clip time-stamped at 3:45 showed them reappearing, this time accompanied by a stranger, a locksmith lugging a small case of tools. I could hardly breathe as I watched them gesture at my door, exchanging words drenched in urgency, my father pulling out, "Paperwork?" This wasn't just a family visit. My heart sank as the locksmith left after shaking his head. And then, the final blow. At 4:30, they were back again. This time, my mother produced another key, different from the first. The click of it trying to turn in the lock echoed in my mind. It didn't work. I could feel their surprise, their concern washing over the screen. My father's gaze darted towards the camera, a mix of shock and guilt flashing across his face before they left in a hurry. Rage boiled inside me. I had built my dream home, something truly mine for the first time, and yet my family had trespassed into my sanctuary not once, but 3 times. Were they trying to reclaim what they thought belonged to them, or was this just a twisted misunderstanding? The scent of my favorite coffee lingered in the air, almost like a taunt. I clutched the couch, grappling with the bittersweet realization. I wasn't simply a homeowner. I was now caught in a web of unspoken family dramas, trapping me between my dreams and inherited expectations. And as that tension hung in the air like stale coffee, I knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning. My parents brought a locksmith to my home, to change my locks. The violation was so deep, so personal, it felt surreal. My hands were shaking as I called my best friend, Maya. "They did what?" she gasped after I told her. "Pam, that is breaking and entering. At the very least, attempted." The rain had started, its fresh scent drifting through my cracked window, a cruel contrast to the storm inside me. "I don't get it, Maya. I never told them I bought this place. How did they even know which house was mine?" Her voice was firm, a lifeline in the chaos. "Confront them. Now. This is so far over the line it's illegal. Call them. I'm staying on the line." I dialed my parents' number, my heart hammering against my ribs. My dad picked up on the second ring. "Pam, is everything all right? You never call this late." "No," I said, my voice tight. "It's not all right. I know you came to my house today. I saw you on my security cameras. You tried to get in. Then you brought a locksmith. I want to know why. Right now." A heavy silence filled the line. I heard muffled whispers. Then, my mother's voice. She only uses my full name when she's defensive. "Pamela, we were going to call you tomorrow. We didn't realize you had changed the locks." "Changed the— Mom, how did you get a key? How did you even know where I live?" She sighed as if I was the one being difficult. "We've known for weeks. Julia Ramirez is my cousin's daughter-in-law. When she told us you were buying the Anderson house, we were just surprised." Julia, my real estate agent. It clicked into place like a deadbolt. She'd asked so many personal questions during our first meeting. I thought she was just being thorough. I was so naive. My trust felt like a shattered window. My own family had orchestrated this, and my agent had handed them the blueprint. The new locksmith finished up, handing me 2 shiny silver keys. Their cold weight in my palm felt like freedom and a declaration of war. I was finally alone in my own house. The silence was mine, but as I stood in my freshly rekeyed doorway, adrenaline prickling my skin, a muffled sound echoed from deep within the house. A footstep. My heart stopped. I clutched my phone tighter, my voice trembling. Just then, a chilling realization hit. How did they know which house was hers? Was her independence already compromised, or is something even darker at play? My mind raced. Do I confront the intruder or run? But what choice will I make when the next move could change everything forever? "That still does not explain why you thought it was okay to enter my home without permission," I said. "Or why you brought a locksmith." My father took the phone back. "Now, Pam, do not be dramatic. We were not breaking in. That house belonged to your grandparents. We were simply coming to discuss the situation with you." "What situation? And why not call me first?" "We tried," my mother shouted in the background. "You never answer." "The situation," my father continued more calmly, "is that we had been planning to help Olivia and Frank buy that house. We have been watching the market for years, waiting for it to become available again. It was supposed to be for them." My mind reeled. "What do you mean supposed to be for them? Your sister needs that house, Pam. They have 3 children. Frank lost his job. They are about to lose their rental. We promised them we would help them get a bigger place, and when the Anderson house came on the market, it seemed perfect. We were getting the financing in order when you swooped in and bought it." "I did not swoop in," I protested. "I had no idea about any of this. I fell in love with the house and bought it. End of story." "Well, we need to fix this," my mother said, having apparently taken the phone back. "Olivia is devastated. The children were so excited about having their own rooms in the new house. Fix this. There is nothing to fix. I bought this house legally. It is mine." "Do not be selfish, Pam," my mother snapped. "You are one person. You do not need a 3-bedroom house. Your sister has a family." "That is not the point I was nearly shouting. Now you cannot just decide my house belongs to Olivia because you think she needs it more." "We will discuss this in person," my father said, taking the phone again. "Clearly, there has been a misunderstanding. We will come by tomorrow evening." Before I could protest, he hung up. I stared at my phone in disbelief. "Did you hear all that I asked Maya, who had been silent during the exchange?" The scent of freshly cut grass filled the air as I sat on my front porch. The evening sun cast a warm, golden light over the lawn. My mind flashed back to signing those mortgage papers. My palms were sweaty. My heart was pounding with pure pride. I could almost feel the rough texture of the documents. A whisper in my mind said, "This is finally yours." Now, every nail, every brick, screams my hard work, my independence. This is why I have to fight. Maya's voice pulled me from the memory. "Pam, this is insane. They're treating you like a child who stole a toy. This is your house. You bought it." After we hung up, I walked through every room. I ran my hands over the walls I painted, the couch I saved for, my sanctuary. The rain started outside, a soft patter against the windows. The fact that they tried to invade this, that they planned to just take it? It lit a fire in me, a resolve I never knew I had. This was mine. The next day at work, I couldn't focus. I told my boss it was a family emergency and left early. My mind was racing. I stopped and bought more security cameras. I called my own locksmith to change every single lock. I even had a deadbolt put on my bedroom door, just in case. At exactly 6 o'clock, a minivan pulled into my driveway. Then my parents' sedan. I watched from the window. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just my parents and Olivia. Frank was there too, and all 3 of their kids. The whole family. Like this was some kind of friendly BBQ, not an ambush. I swung the door open before they could knock, or try another key. I didn't realize this was a full family meeting, I said. My voice was tight. My mother smiled, a little too sweetly. We thought it would be good for you to see everyone. She just ushered the kids right inside. No invitation. Pam, you remember your niece and nephews? Emma is 8 now. Jake is 6. Little Michael just turned 4. The kids shuffled past me, their eyes wide, staring at my home, taking it all in. Emma, the oldest, looked up at me, her small voice cutting through the tension. Mommy says this is going to be our new house. I get the room with the window seat, right? My eyes snapped to my sister, Olivia. She at least had the grace to blush, refusing to meet my gaze. Emma, we talked about this, she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. My father commandeered my living room as if he owned it. Let's all sit down, discuss this like adults. I followed, my blood simmering. Once we were seated, my mother shooed the kids outside to play. The moment the back door clicked shut, I spoke. My voice was steady. This is my house. I bought it. My money. My name is on the deed. I knew nothing about your plans for Olivia. Olivia's calculating look shattered into sudden, heavy tears. It's not fair, Pam. Frank lost his job. Our rental is being sold. We have to be out in weeks. Where are my kids supposed to go? Frank leaned forward, his eyes hard. Your sister has 3 kids, Pam. 3. What do you need all this space for? Just you and your laptop. Come on. My space isn't the issue, I said, my fists clenching under the table. The issue is you all thinking you have a claim, to the point of trying to break into my home. My father's voice was a low thunder. No one was breaking in. We had keys. We had keys before you changed them. A cold dread washed over me. How? I never gave you keys. My mother looked away, staring at a water stain on the ceiling. She sighed. Julia, the realtor, she had an extra set from the showing. She thought, we might want to see the place, given the history. It would only be temporary, Frank said, though his tone suggested otherwise. 6 months, maybe a year tops. Absolutely not, I said. I'm not selling my house, and I am certainly not turning it into a shared living space with 5 additional people. See, Frank exploded, turning to my parents. I told you she would be selfish about this. She has always been the selfish one. Frank Olivia hissed, but the damage was done. What do you mean, always been the selfish one? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. What exactly have you all been saying about me? No one would meet my eyes. Then my mother sighed heavily. Pam, you have to understand. Family helps family. Olivia has always understood that she and Frank would do anything for us for the whole family. You have always been more independent, more focused on yourself. More focused on myself, I repeated. You mean because I went to college instead of getting married at 20? Because I built a career instead of having children right away? Because I saved for my own house instead of asking you to buy one for me? That is not fair, Olivia protested. We are not asking them to buy a house for us just to help with the down payment, like they helped with your first house. I asked. The one you lost to foreclosure because Frank insisted on renovating with money you did not have, or the second one that you had to sell at a loss when you decided the neighborhood was not good enough anymore. That is enough, my father said sharply. We did not come here to dredge up the past. No, you came here to take my house, I said, and I think we are finally getting to the truth of why. I walked to the built-in cabinet in the dining room and pulled out a folder of documents I had compiled the night before after my call with Aunt Jane. "This house belonged to Grandma and Grandpa Anderson," I said, laying out photocopies of old deeds and tax records. "They left it to you and Uncle David Mom with the understanding that it would stay in the family, but you sold it to help Olivia buy her first house." My mother palled. "How did you find out about that?" Aunt Jane told me. She also told me how disappointed Grandpa would have been. This house was supposed to stay in the family for generations. "We needed the money," my mother said defensively. "Olivia and Frank were starting their family. They needed help. And now, by complete coincidence, I have bought back the family home with my own money. And instead of being happy that it is back in the family, you want to take it from me and give it to Olivia again." No one spoke for a long moment. Then Frank stood up abruptly. "This is bull," he said. "We need that house. We have kids, for God's sake." "Frank, sit down," my father ordered. "We are trying to handle this civilly." But Frank was on a roll now. "No, I am done being civil. Pam has always gotten special treatment because she is the smart one, the successful one. Meanwhile, we have been busting our asses trying to provide for our family. And now we are about to be homeless because she wants to play house. Special treatment." I nearly choked on the words. "Are you kidding me? Olivia has always been the favorite. Always. Mom and Dad have bailed you too out of every financial mess you have created while I have had to work for everything I have." "Oh, poor Pam," Olivia mocked. "So oppressed with your 6F figure job and your fancy degree. Some of us chose family over career, you know." "And that was your choice," I shouted, finally losing my composure. "Just like this is my house. My choice." The argument escalated with years of resentment and family dynamics bubbling to the surface. It came out that my parents had already begun measuring rooms and planning furniture placement before even speaking to me. Olivia admitted she had been driving by the house regularly since I bought it, trying to get a glimpse inside. The scent of rain on dry earth, and the quiet rustle of leaves from the old oak tree in the backyard. That's what I remember from the day my grandmother told me I could do anything. Her hands, weathered from a lifetime of work, held mine. She said, "Honey, take pride in what you build." That memory hit me like a wave last night. Because my own family, they tried to take the very thing I'd built. It all exploded after dinner. Frank stood up. "This is bull," he said. "We need that house. We have kids." He accused me of getting special treatment my whole life. Special treatment? Are you kidding me? I had to work for every single thing I have. Olivia always got the bailouts. Mom and Dad were already measuring the rooms, planning where their furniture would go. In my house, they had even given notice on their apartment. They were that sure I'd just hand it over. Then my mother said it, the words that broke me. "I never thought you would put a house above your own family, Pam. What would Grandma say?" What would Grandma say? She'd say I earned this, that she was proud I brought our family home back, all on my own, not by guilt, not by force. My hands were shaking. "I think you all need to leave now." I held the door open. "This is my house." My mother was crying. My father was stone-faced. Olivia just glared. As they collected the kids from the yard, I heard my little niece, Emma. "Are we not moving into Aunt Pam's house?" That innocent question. It shattered what was left of my heart. I closed the door, engaged every lock. Then I just slid to the floor and finally let the tears come. This morning, I called in sick. My head is pounding. I'm completely drained. But through the hurt, that memory of my grandmother's voice is still there. A gentle reminder. This is my victory, my independence, and I will protect it. But beneath the hurt and exhaustion, a newfound determination was taking root. This was my home, and I needed to protect it. My first call was to a lawyer. Maya had recommended Rachel Goldstein, who specialized in real estate and family law. Rachel agreed to see me that afternoon. "Based on what you have told me, "Your position is very clear," Rachel said after hearing my story. "You are the legal owner of the property. Your family has no claim to it whatsoever, regardless of its history or their expectations." "Could they try to make a legal claim based on the fact that it was once family property?" I asked. "Number of title is clean. Your mother and uncle sold the property legally years ago. The fact that you subsequently purchased it does not create any right of reversion to other family members." Rachel recommended documenting all interactions with my family regarding the house, changing all locks and security codes, and sending a formal cease and desist letter if they continued to pressure me or attempt to enter the property without permission. "What about the real estate agent?" I asked. "She gave copies of my house keys to my parents without my knowledge or consent." "That is a serious ethical violation," Rachel confirmed. "You should report her to the State Real Estate Commission and the local Realtor Association. You might also have grounds for a civil complaint if you choose to pursue it." Armed with legal advice and reassurance, I left Rachel's community center feeling more confident. On the way home, I stopped at a home improvement store to purchase additional security measures, a video doorbell window sensors, and motion-activated floodlights for the yard. I spent the evening installing the new security devices and changing all my passwords, including the WFI network and security system. As I worked, my phone buzzed constantly with messages from family members. My parents sent a group text saying they were disappointed in my behavior. Pam had always been a fighter. Ever since she was a kid, she dreamed of her own home, free from her family's expectations. Now, after so much hard work, she was about to make that dream a reality. As she ascended the familiar staircase of her soon-to-be home, she felt the promise of independence. The scent of fresh paint lingered in the air, mingling with the distant sound of leaves rustling in the breeze. Her heart raced with excitement. But something caught her eye. An unmarked envelope lay tucked under the doorframe. Heart pounding, Pam's hand trembled as she reached for it. When she opened it, a cold wave of betrayal washed over her. The letter revealed her family's dark secret. They had been sabotaging her financially all along, ensuring she stayed dependent on them. The glow of her new home felt instantly dim. The very people she had fought against were the ones pulling the strings of her struggles. In that moment, Pam's fight shifted. It wasn't just about claiming her space, it was about reclaiming her life. The contrast of her hopes against the shadows of family betrayal ignited a newfound determination within her. Days passed, and she dived into legal advice. She sat across from Rachel Goldstein, armed with the knowledge of her rights. "You are the legal owner," Rachel assured her, slicing through the manipulation like a knife. Pam felt the weight lifting. It was time for action. Changing locks, documenting every interaction, and arming herself with defenses. Later, as she fortified her home with security upgrades, her phone buzzed incessantly. Family texts poured in, laden with guilt trips and accusations. "Thanks for making your niece and nephews cry," her sister blasted. The phone felt heavy in her hand, but she knew she had to block out the noise. Maya, her loyal friend, dropped by with takeout and wine, a comforting presence in the storm. "You're standing your ground," Maya said, eyes sparkling with pride. "This isn't just your home, it's your life." Pam took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her realizations. She had always given in, sacrificing her dreams to meet their expectations. But no more. The revelation hung in the air like the sweet scent of rain. A new chapter was about to begin. Armed with clarity, determination, and the strength of her independence, Pam was ready to reclaim her narrative. No longer defined by her family's control, she would build the life she wanted, brick by brick, and in this fight, she found her power. Pam's hands were shaking. The rain-scented air in her apartment felt thick with the weight of her family's history. The truth was a gut punch. For years, her parents had bailed out her sister, Olivia, and Frank. Over and over. A house in the suburbs, another one after the foreclosure, constant rent subsidies. All while Pam worked, saved, and fought for every single step on her own. And now they wanted the one thing she had built by herself, her dream. She took a deep breath, her finger hovering over the keyboard. This email wasn't just a message, it was a line drawn in the sand, a declaration of war and peace. She hit send. The silence in the room was instantly shattered. Her phone lit up like a firework. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Her parents. Radio silence. Olivia's reply was ice cold. Thanks, but no thanks. Some cousins apologized. They never knew the whole story. Others, they just dug in deeper. The guilt trips kept coming. But this time, Pam didn't flinch. She stood by her words, her home, her life. The noise was just noise now. For the first time, the only voice that truly mattered was her own. The new security camera sent a notification straight to my phone. I saw him standing there. My dad. Alone. Pam, I know you can see me, he said. I just want to talk. My heart hammered against my ribs. After everything. Was this another trick? I opened the door but didn't invite him in. We sat on the porch swing, the silence heavy between us. Your mother and I, we may have overreacted. I stayed quiet, letting him find the words. He admitted it was a shock, my buying this place, that it brought up old family history. But that doesn't excuse how we handled it. No, it didn't. Then he said the words I never thought I'd hear. I respect that this is your house. You earned it. I'm proud of you. It wasn't a full apology, but it was a start. As he left, he handed me a small package. Found this in the attic. Inside was an old black and white photo. My grandparents, standing right here on my porch on their moving day in 1948. A wave of emotion hit me. This was always meant to be my home. Now I sit here on my step, clutching my phone. The city noises fade. I'm so close to having it all, but that family gaze still haunts me. The dusk air grows cool. A shadow moves near my driveway. A figure I don't recognize, just standing there, watching. My breath catches. Is it a cautious neighbor? Or something more? What do they want? Is this my dream crumbling? Or is it finally, completely mine? They looked young and hopeful, much as I had felt the day I received my keys. Thank you, I said, genuinely touched by the gesture. As he walked to his car, I called after him. Dad, I meant what I said in my email. I am happy to help them find a new place, just not this one. He nodded. I know, and that is more than fair. It was a small step toward healing, but an important one. For the first time, someone in my family had acknowledged my right to my own space, my own boundaries. It felt like a victory, hard one, but worth the fight. The weeks following the confrontation with my family were some of the most challenging of my adult life. The silence from my mother and Olivia was deafening, punctuated only by occasional messages about family obligations or pointed comments about their ongoing housing search. Frank had apparently taken my father's advice and found steady employment at an insurance company, a job that paid less than his commission work, but offered stability they desperately needed. Through mutual friends, I learned that they had found a 3-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood, not as spacious as my house, but comfortable and within their budget. My offer to help with the deposit went unanswered, their pride still wounded by the confrontation. During this time, I threw myself into making my house truly my own. I planted a vegetable garden in the backyard, painted the kitchen cabinets a cheerful blue, and finally unpacked the last of my boxes. Each improvement felt like a statement. This is my home, my sanctuary, my achievement. Eleanor became a regular visitor, bringing homemade bread and neighborhood gossip. She never cried about the family situation, but offered quiet support in her own way. Maya and my other friends rallied around me, hosting game nights at my place and helping with home projects. On a personal level, I used this time to reflect on the patterns that had defined my family relationships for so long. The rain had just stopped, its fresh, clean scent mixing with the damp earth in my garden. I watched a single leaf rustle in the breeze. It felt peaceful. My own peace. Therapy with Dr. Chen was changing everything. She said the guilt was programmed, a trap set by my own family. Learning to say no felt like learning to breathe again. Then my mother called. Our talk was careful, like walking on glass. We discussed everything but the one thing that mattered. Just as we were about to hang up, she surprised me. "I drove by last week. Your blue hydrangeas, they look lovely." It was an olive branch. I took it. "Thank you. I planted them for Grandma. A connection to the old house." She was quiet for a moment. She would have liked that. Another pause. "Maybe. I could come see the garden, just to visit. Not to... well, you know." My heart hammered. Was this real? "I would like that," I said. "Could we finally meet in the middle?" A week later she came over. We sat in the garden with tea. The silence wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. It was a start. She brought a box of old photos. Pictures of my grandparents. Right here, in this house. They looked so young, so hopeful. We were rebuilding something, piece by piece. It wasn't the relationship we had. It was something new, something with boundaries. And, for the first time, that felt like enough. The rain had just stopped, the air sharp with the scent of wet earth and blooming hydrangeas. I was in my garden, my sanctuary, my one true statement of independence. I'd built this life from the ground up. Every payment, every nail I'd hammered was a desperate fight to prove I could do it alone. But as I sifted through the final paperwork for my mortgage, my fingers brushed against a document I'd never seen. It felt thicker, older. My name was on it. Pam. My heart hammered against my ribs. I was terrified. All this struggle, the endless pressure to be the perfect, independent daughter, was it all for nothing? The paper rustled, a quiet whisper from another time. I smoothed it out on my kitchen table, my hands trembling. The heading read, "Living Trust." I held my breath. This couldn't be real. And then I saw it. The terms were clear. A fund, established by my grandfather, for me, for this exact purpose, to buy a home, to build a life. The date was from decades ago. I just sat there, stunned. All this time, I thought I was breaking the chain. I was just following it. My fight wasn't about breaking away. It was about stepping into a legacy I never knew was waiting for me. The weight on my shoulders. It just vanished. My mother raised her glass, her voice soft but clear in the warm, lit room. "A toast," she began. Everyone fell quiet. I looked at their faces. My parents, my sister Olivia, my friends, all here in this house that now held a secret history. To my daughter, Pam. Her eyes met mine, and they were glistening. "Your grandfather built the garden beds outside, but you built the home that stands on them. We are so proud of the woman you've become." The room echoed with agreement, glasses clinking. It was more than I ever dreamed of hearing. Later, I showed them the trust document. The shock on their faces mirrored my own. My father's stern expression softened into something like regret. "My father, he always believed in you. He told me to make sure you got this when the time was right. I was afraid you wouldn't need us anymore." Olivia was silent for a long moment. Then she reached out and squeezed my hand. "Maybe we all have our own versions of the truth," she said. The forgiveness in the room was almost a physical thing, warm and heavy and new. We ended the night on the porch, watching the fireflies blink in the soft dark. The past and the present had finally, quietly, made peace. My dream house was never just wood and nails. It was a bridge. It connected me to my future, and now, I understood, to my past. I wasn't just Pam, the independent woman. I was Pam, the heir, and my journey was just beginning. As the last car pulled away, that silence, it wasn't empty, it was full. This house, my dream, was finally a home. My sister's words echoed. The kids, they loved the treehouse. I could already hear their laughter here. Real connection, on my terms. But peace never lasts, does it? Later, a storm rolled in. The scent of rain hit the air. I walked through the quiet rooms, my hand brushing the wall my grandfather built. That's when I saw it. A flicker of white behind an old picture frame. An envelope. Stuck there. Hidden. My name was scrawled across it in a hurry. The handwriting. It wasn't my grandfather's. It wasn't my mother's. Who left this? My heart hammered. The trust fund was one secret. What was this? Another? The old paper smelled faintly of dust and secrets. My fingers trembled as I pulled it free. A sudden noise crackled outside, a branch breaking, or a footstep on the gravel driveway. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Was someone out there, waiting, watching me right now? I wasn't alone. This envelope. It felt heavy, dangerous. What truth was hidden inside? Was my grandfather's gift not the whole story? Was this the real reason my family fought me so hard? The nightmare I thought was over. Was it just beginning? Thanks for sitting with me through this, because sometimes you find your true home not just in four walls, but in standing up for what you believe. Pam had spent years fighting to prove she could break free. Family pressure, endless expectations, but today she's finally here, standing in her own home, keys in hand, sunlight pouring in. Tears stream down her face. The noise of her family's disapproval fades away. All that matters now is this moment. Her hard work, her sacrifice. Her fists clench the air, exhausted yet victorious. After all the battles, all the doubt, it's finally hers. She breathes in the scent of fresh paint, feels the softness of new flooring under her feet. This isn't just a house, it's her future. Her soul finally at peace with the choices she's made. Her journey isn't over, but today she's finally free.